Among those who are invited to tomorrow's White House ceremony is a woman who has personally crossed Middle East political boundaries in a gesture of peace and coexistence toward Israel. And you could say she paid a price for it. Sarah Idan was born and raised in Baghdad and was chosen to represent Iraq at the 2017 Miss Universe pageant. There she posed for this selfie with Miss Israel, Adar Gandelsman, and the resulting threats she received caused her family to flee Iraq. She continues to advocate for coexistence and human rights, and she joins us now from Washington. Sarah, thank you so much for joining with us on I-24 News. I want to ask you, you tweeted earlier about earlier this month about this trip that was made to Abu Dhabi by Israelis. For non-Arab, non-Israeli, you have no idea how historical and incredible these photos are of the first Israeli plane flying over Saudi Arabia for the first time and landing in Emirates. Well, let me ask you about that as someone born and raised in the Middle East in a country like that. How significant do you see these developments taking place right now?
They are very significant. It's incredible, and I feel like it's lost on the rest of the world and on Americans here. They think just because Israel wasn't at war with Emirates or with Bahrain, they think this is not a big deal. But for me as an Arab, I know that, without me having American passport, I couldn't travel to Israel. No Arab country would allow me to come back. And it's the same thing for Israelis. So to see this movement that they're not just stopping war, but they're actually they initiated peace, and now people can travel to these countries and they can see each other and they can commingle and tell their stories. This is amazing. I remember I was in Israel in 2018, and I remember all those people. I was walking in Yehuda markets, and all these people, they came to me and they said, we wish, they were all like from Arab origins, who migrated to Israel and became Israelis. And they said, we wish to go back to the Middle East. We wish to see the lands where we're originally from. And now those people get to experience that. It's amazing. It's amazing on all aspects, on this aspect, on also the aspect of having a common enemy for Israel and for all these Arab countries that are now coming to peace. They have the same interests of fighting radical Islamist regimes like the Iranian regime and like Turkey and the Muslim Brotherhood, who have been responsible for all the terrorism in the Middle East. To see them come together, this sends a huge message to these radicals that this will not be tolerated, right. And these countries are now united and they can fight them together. Right. So for me, this is incredible on so many levels. Also, I've been to UAE, and one thing I know that they have in common with Israel is if you ever visit UAE, you will see there are a lot of people. There's huge diversity, and also as a country, I respect their leadership because they have something also similar with Israel. They always focus on developing technology and basically building a better future for us as right. humans across the world. And for them to work together, I think that's they're gonna make wonderful things together.
Well, let me ask you, Sarah, because I think what's taken a lot of Israelis by surprise is the warmth they felt from the people of the UAE, especially mainly through social media, a country that Israel didn't have relations with. Now, you are quite active on social media. I'm sure you hear from people in other countries that Israel does not have relations, some where the leadership is even hostile to Israel, maybe even in your native Iraq. Tell us about that, what you hear across the region from other people who might be wanting to see their countries make this step.
I'm sorry, you're asking me what did I hear from Iraqis and from countries who don't have relations?
No, what you hear from other people in the Arab world, even from those countries that don't have relations with Israel, if they perhaps also want to see their leaderships make this step and establish relations with Israel.
Now there is definitely, for me as an Iraqi, I interact with Iraqis a lot on social media, and now I see, like, more than ever, a lot of people, a lot of Iraqis, they want the same thing to happen, because a lot of them, they experience the Irani regime and how it destroyed their country. And a lot of those people were brainwashed before by the propaganda from Saddam and then later from Iran, that Israel is this apartheid state, that they are killing Palestinians, they're not good people. And now they got to witness what these regimes, what they're doing to the Iraqi people. They realize they are full of lies, and they realize this is all propaganda. And a lot of them, a lot of Iraqis, I think they sent delegations to Israel a while ago, where they had journalists went to visit, and they saw a different thing. And also a lot of people message me and saying, Sarah, when you went to Israel and we saw how Israel looked from the inside, that was like a totally eye-opener, like not just for me, for them as well, because so many did not even realize that Israel had not only Jewish people, but they had Christians, they had Arabs, they had Muslims, and they all lived in beautiful unity. And this is what they want to see in their countries as well.
Right. Now, as you mentioned, you've been to Israel, Sarah, and you've created friendships. I wanted to ask you about just your feeling about going to that ceremony tomorrow in that White House, how you feel about it, who you'd like to meet, what messages you would like to convey as you be part of that event.
Oh, my God. I'm so happy. Like, I'm still in disbelief. When I received the email, when I read that I was invited to that, I was almost in tears. As you know, my family and I really suffered, because of only taking a selfie, saying peace and love from Miss Iraq and Miss Israel. And to me, like, people, they keep calling it the deal of the century, but I know this is the deal of a millennium. This is the deal that's finally gonna bring the people, the children of Abraham, of Isaac and Ismail, they're going to bring them together after 4,000 years. They're going to denounce the anti-Semitism that's been taught in Arab countries for political reasons. And now those people will get to live together. It's amazing. And I expected it to happen. I just did not expect it to happen so soon. So I'm very happy, and I'm so thankful for Trump's administration and for Jared Kushner to really push Arabs and push Israel to come to peace. It's amazing. It's wonderful.
Well, I think deal of the millennium, I think certainly President Trump would love to hear that. Maybe you'll have a chance to tell it to him in person tomorrow.
I hope so.
at the White House. Sarah,
I don't know if I'm that important that they will meet with me. Let's hope.
Well, let's hope.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope. Sarah, yes. Idan, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
Thank you.
And that ends the first hour.